After my mother-in-law threw away the only letter my father ever wrote to me and said, "The dead don't matter," my husband let her. I sat awake until morning rewriting it from memory. Years later, when she found that letter resting beside her bed, the last sentence written made her. I, 33 female, married my husband, 36 male, when I was 26. We'd been together for almost 4 years. At the time, I thought I married into a family that just had some quirks. Strict, controlling, a little too into appearances, but I could handle that. I grew up in chaos. I thought quiet judgment was better than loud dysfunction. I thought I was escaping. I didn't realize until much later that what I walked into wasn't just judgment, it was erasure. And the worst part is my husband let it happen. My dad died when I was 16. Cancer. I won't get into all of it, but it was fast and brutal. My mom had already left by then, so it was just him and me at the end. The day before he went fully unconscious, he wrote me a letter. Just 2 pages, front and back. I kept it folded in a small wooden box that had a lock, the kind kids think is real security. I'd open it on my birthday or on really bad days and read his words. How proud he was of me, how much he loved my mind, how I didn't need to fix the world, just stay soft in it. That letter got me through a lot. College, panic attacks, nights I wanted to give up. It was the only thing I had in his handwriting. He never got a chance to write another one. Flash forward. I'd been married 2 years when we moved into my in-laws' guest house.
Temporary, we said.
I lost my job after merger, and my husband got promoted but had to relocate. His parents offered a transition while we found a new place. They made it sound like a gift. We were broke, stressed, and grateful. From day one, my Emile treated me like a guest overstaying my welcome. Fake nice. Smiles with sharp edges. Constant suggestions. Constant comparisons. "You should do your hair more like Rachel," she'd say, referring to my sister-in-law. "I don't know how you got hired in marketing. You're so sensitive. Your husband needs more protein. You don't cook enough meat." She never used my name. Just her. As in, why is she always in the kitchen? Tell her to keep the door closed, the AC's on. One afternoon, she offered to help me organize the bedroom in the guest house while my husband was out. I didn't want her in there, but she was already halfway through my closet when I came in. I caught her holding the wooden box. It was open. She had the letter in her hand. "What's this?" she asked, like it was a menu. I panicked. "That's from my dad." She read a few lines, snorted, and I swear to God, dropped it in the trash. Not even a pause. "You don't need that. The dead don't matter." I looked at her. I don't even remember what I said. I think I was shaking. She just walked out like she'd taken out a piece of junk mail. When my husband got home, I told him what happened, word for word. He sat there, barely reacting, and said, "I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it." I said, "Are you going to talk to her?" He said, "Let's just not make a thing out of this." I didn't sleep that night. Around 1 a.m., I got up, sat at the kitchen table, and rewrote the letter. From memory. Every line I could remember. I cried the whole time, quietly, so I wouldn't wake anyone up. I don't even know how long it took. I didn't stop until I felt like it was all there. I folded it the same way, like the original. I kept that version in the back of a book in my suitcase. The next day, she made pancakes and asked how I slept. I said nothing. We moved out 10 months later. Found a place. Had a baby. Life went on. Or I pretended it did. She still inserted herself into everything. She'd criticize my parenting in front of people. "That outfit doesn't match. You're holding her too much. You're going to raise a clingy child." My husband always made excuses. "She's just trying to help." That's how she was raised. Don't let it get to you. So I stopped letting it get to me. On the surface, I smiled. I gave her time with our daughter. I let her think she won. And I rewrote the letter again. Every year. As my memory faded, I updated it. I kept each version. Each one said a little more. Not just about my dad, but about what it meant to lose something, to have it stolen and be told it didn't matter. I never forgot that night. I never forgot the sound the trash can made when she dropped it in. A few years ago, she started getting sick. It started small, confusion for getting appointments. Then paranoia. Accusing people of stealing things.
Saying things that didn't make sense.
Doctors called it cognitive decline, maybe early onset something. She couldn't live alone anymore. And my husband, of course, said, "We should take her in." I said, "Okay." We cleared out our guest room. I cleaned it myself, set up a TV, labeled drawers. She moved in, and I took care of her, smiled when she insulted my cooking, helped her to bed when she couldn't stand straight, brushed her hair when it got tangled. One night, she seemed scared, kept asking if someone had been in her room, looked at me different, like she knew I remembered, like she didn't. That was the night I left the letter by her bed. Not the original, because that's gone forever, but the one I wrote that night she threw it out. The one I cried over. The one I kept hidden in the book. The one that still had the anger in it. The grief. The part of me that died with it. I put it in an envelope. No return address. Just one word in the corner, Michael. My father's name. I placed it under her glasses. Turned off the light. Closed the door. She found it the next morning. She screamed. Not loud like fear, loud like pain. Raw and shaking. I was in the hallway when it happened. My daughter, who was 6 then, came running out of her room and grabbed my hand. "What's wrong with Grandma?" she asked. I told her to go back to bed. I walked into the room slowly. She was standing in the corner, gripping the dresser like it was holding her up. The letter was on the floor. She had thrown it. I picked it up, held it in front of her. Her eyes were locked on it, her whole body stiff. She looked terrified, like I'd raised the dead. "Where did you get this?" she whispered. "I didn't," I said. "It was always mine." She didn't answer. Her mouth moved like she wanted to say something but couldn't. I left the letter on the nightstand and walked out. That should have been the end of it. But 2 days later, my husband confronted me. "Why did you give her that letter?" "She didn't tell you what it was?" "She said it was a threat, that you're trying to make her sick worse, that you're messing with her mind." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because, after everything, he still couldn't see it. It was my dad's letter, the one she threw away. He blinked like I hit him. "You still have it?"
No.
I rewrote it. The night she threw the real one out. The one you let her throw away. He looked away. Didn't speak. Then, finally, he said, "I didn't know what to do back then. I was trying to keep peace." I said, "You didn't keep peace. You chose a side." He didn't deny it, just left the room. That week, she didn't speak to me. She avoided eye contact, stared at her hands a lot. At night, I could hear her moving around in her room, opening drawers,
Closing them.
over and over, like she was looking for something, or
Hiding something.
then weird things started happening. First, my daughter's night light went missing. I found it in the kitchen drawer behind the knives. Then one of my books, the one I'd kept the letter in years ago, disappeared. Then, one morning, my daughter said Grandma told her the sad man is back. "What's sad man?" I asked. She pointed to the guest room. "Grandma says he's standing by her bed. He watches her while she sleeps." That night, I heard her crying. Real crying. Not dramatic. Not loud. Just quiet and broken. Like she was being crushed from the inside. The next day, I found the book she'd taken. It was on her nightstand. She had marked pages with sticky notes. She circled lines that weren't even important. I asked her why she took it. She said, "He's in here." Then she told me something that knocked the breath out of me. I remember now. I remember reading the letter the first time. I remember what it said. "You told me you didn't read it." She shook her head. I lied. I read every word. I read it twice. Then I threw it away, because it made me feel small. She looked up at me. "He loved you." It was so clear. And I hated how easy that kind of love was for you to have. I hated that your father saw you like that. Like a real person. Not a thing to shape. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. She went quiet again. But after that, she wouldn't let anyone touch her mail. She kept checking the front door, asking if anything came addressed to Michael. Some days she called me by name. Other days she called me her. Once she called me Anna. That's her sister's name. The one who died when they were teenagers. Then she started doing something I didn't expect. She began rewriting her own letters. At first I thought she was journaling, but then I found one on the floor under her bed. It was written to her own mother. It said, "You never said sorry. You never looked at me after Anna died. I became your ghost. I don't forgive you." And another. "To the baby I lost, I'm sorry I didn't fight harder. I pretended you didn't exist, so I wouldn't break in half." She had a whole stack of them. Letters to people who were long dead. Some just names. Some with whole stories. I didn't tell my husband. I didn't want to explain it. But I started saving the letters. I kept them in a box in my closet. I don't know why I'm doing that. Maybe because I know what it feels like to have a letter taken away. But I also don't trust her. Because last week, she said something that I can't get out of my head. We were alone in the living room. She was watching the fire burn in the fireplace. I thought she was falling asleep, but then she said, "You think you're the only one who can write something that haunts." I asked her what she meant. She smiled.
Wide.
"Too wide." "I wrote something too," she said. "You'll find it when it's time." I asked, "What did you write?" She turned to me slowly. "The truth." And now I can't sleep. I've torn apart the room, looked in drawers, under furniture, in the vents. Nothing. But she's hiding something. I know it. And whatever it is, she wants me to find it when it's too late. A week after she said she wrote the truth, I found a folded piece of paper tucked inside one of my daughter's books. It was not in my Aunt Miles' handwriting. The paper looked old, yellowed at the edges. I opened it carefully, thinking maybe it was a page torn from a library book or some forgotten journal. But it was a letter. And it started with, "If you're reading this, she's already gotten into your life." At first, I thought it was a joke, a prank. But as I kept reading, I realized it wasn't written to me. It was written about her, my mother-in-law, and it wasn't signed. It talked about manipulation, about charm and control, about how she only ever needed one person to believe her story, and she'd use that person to destroy everyone else. She'll isolate you, make you doubt yourself. You'll think it's you. You'll think you're overreacting, but it's always her. There were details in the letter that made my skin crawl. It mentioned how she used to fake fainting spells when she didn't get her way as a teenager. How she once made her younger sister lie and say their father hit her, just to get her sister sent away to boarding school.
Anna.
She had called me Anna once in the middle of the night. I thought it was a slip. I thought it was confusion. But now I started to wonder, did she do something to her sister? The letter didn't say it outright, but it ended with, "There's a reason she doesn't keep photos from before 1970. Ask her why." I didn't tell my husband. I still haven't. Instead, I started looking. I went through all of her old photo albums. Most of them were curated like museum exhibits. Perfect poses. Holiday smiles. But there was nothing before she turned 18. Nothing with her parents. Nothing with Anna. When I asked her about it casually, she just smiled and said, "The past is heavy. I prefer light things." But I kept digging. And 2 nights later, I found something. It was in a locked box, hidden behind the drywall panel in the laundry room. I only found it because I dropped a basket and saw the corner sticking out. I pulled it loose with a butter knife. Inside were 3 things. A faded Polaroid of 2 girls, maybe 13 or 14, standing in front of a lake. A hospital ID bracelet. A newspaper clipping the photo had writing on the back, "Anna and L. Lakewood, 1964 L." Her name. The hospital bracelet had Anna's name on it. And the date matched the year she died. And the newspaper clipping was just a small article, almost nothing, tucked in the corner of the page. It said a young girl had drowned in Lakewood. No foul play suspected. But someone had circled the words "no foul play" in red pen, over and over again. When I confronted her the next day, she was sitting on the couch, folding napkins that didn't need folding. I held the photo up. This Anna? She stopped. Didn't look at me. Just said, some people can't handle deep water. Did you two go to the lake alone? I asked. She kept folding napkins. She didn't know how to swim. And you did. Her eyes flicked up to me then.
Cold.
Focused. I was the strong one, she said. She always let herself sink. I didn't press her.
Not then.
I was scared, and not of what she'd do. I was scared of what she might say. That night, I put the photo and bracelet in my closet with the other letters. I took the newspaper clipping and burned it. I didn't know why, but I didn't want it in the house. And then something else happened. My daughter started sleepwalking. She'd never done that before. But suddenly, every other night, I'd find her in the hallway, or standing by the fireplace, or twice in the guest room doorway, just staring inside. When I asked her what she was doing, she'd say, "He told me Grandma is hiding things." I said, "Who's he?" And she looked right at me and said, "Your daddy." She never met my father, never saw a video of him. I don't even have a recording of his voice. But then she said, "He told me to find the red box." That was the final crack. There was a red box. I hadn't seen it in years, not since we moved out of the guest house. But I remembered it. It was the box that originally held his letter, the one she threw out. I went into the attic that night, tore through every bin. Nothing. Then I went to her room. She was sleeping, mouth open, soft breaths.
Innocent almost.
But under her bed, behind the extra pillows, was the red box. I opened it. Inside was a letter. Not from my dad. Not in my handwriting. It was from her.
To me.
And it started. "I've always known you'd try to replace me." The letter in the red box was handwritten. Not shaky like her recent scribbles, but neat. Controlled. It looked like it had been written years ago. Maybe before the sickness. I sat on the floor and read it right there, with her asleep 3 feet above me. It said, "You are never supposed to be part of this family. You don't belong to us. You were someone he brought home to feel like a hero. And I let him. I let him think he saved you. But the thing about strays is, they scratch when they're scared." She meant my husband. "You thought he chose you, but really, he chose not to disappoint me. He's always done that. Even as a boy. He learned early, I don't forgive weakness. And that letter, your father's letter, was weakness. It made you think you mattered more than you do. So I took it. That was mercy." I couldn't breathe. It went on. "You think I threw it away? I didn't. I kept it. I kept it because I wanted to understand what made you so soft and fragile." I read it again and again, and every time, I felt nothing. That's when I knew you were dangerous. She'd lied. She hadn't tossed it in the trash. She'd kept it. She'd read the last words my father ever wrote to me and studied them like I was a specimen. She pretended she discarded it so I'd break, and I did. I spent years thinking it was gone. I grieved it like a second death. I gave birth to 2 sons. I raised them to follow strength. You made one of them think love was enough. You made him soft. You made him question me. That's when I knew I had to break you back down. I felt sick. My hands were shaking. But I turned the page. You're not the first. He was never supposed to marry you. Before you, there was someone else. She wore long skirts and always said thank you. She stayed quiet. She didn't push. But he didn't love her. And I couldn't let that happen again. So, I picked someone worse. Someone I knew he'd want to fix. I chose you. It didn't make sense. She was saying she wanted him to marry me? That she orchestrated it? Was that even possible? I remembered how we met at a volunteer event. He was leading a food drive and I was handing out canned goods. I thought it was random. Coincidence. But now I wondered, did she know I'd be there? Did she put me there? Was it all just a game to her? Bring in the broken girl, let him feel useful, then cut the rope? You weren't built for this family. You want feelings. We want legacy. You want apologies. We want power. You were always a temporary piece. But you stayed too long. The last line was underlined twice. There are worse things than losing a letter. You'll see. I put the pages back in the envelope, tucked it under my sweater, and walked out. The next morning, the red box was gone. I didn't say anything. Neither did she. But I know she knows I read it. Her eyes follow me differently now, not angry, not scared. Amused. Like she's waiting for something. The next day, my daughter came home from school and said, "Grandma told me if I show you her drawer, you'll cry again." I froze. What drawer? She pointed to the antique cabinet in my Emil's room, one of the only locked pieces of furniture in the house. That night, I opened it with a screwdriver. Inside were folders. Dozens. Labeled by year. Some going back over a decade. Most were filled with clippings. Emails. Photos of people I didn't know. Names I'd never heard. But
Some were about me.
printouts of my social media from college. My college essays. Photos of me and my dad. There was even a handwritten note that said, May 2006, father diagnosed. September, died. She knew. She had researched my life before I even met her son. Another folder was labeled with a name I hadn't heard in years. Mira. Mira was my old roommate. She dropped out of school during our junior year after a breakdown. I never found out why. I lost touch with her. I opened the folder. Inside was a printed email. From me to Mira. It was a short message I vaguely remembered, something about her missing class and me offering to help her catch up. But underneath was something else. A typed letter, forged, using my name, dated 2 days later. It said, I think you're unstable. I don't feel safe around you. Please don't contact me again. It was signed with my name, my email address. But I never sent it. There was also a response. Mira had replied, devastated.
Confused. Apologizing.
I never saw that reply. It hit me like a truck. She had gotten into my email. Back then, I used the same password for everything. It wouldn't have been hard. She'd sent that message to Mira behind my back. Cut off my only close friendship. And I never knew.
The folders went deeper.
There were notes from meetings at my daughter's school, ones I never attended. Forms signed with my name, changing her emergency contact from me to her. She was building something. Slowly. Carefully. A version of reality where I was absent. Irresponsible. Emotionally unstable. My husband didn't know any of this. I was sure of that. He wouldn't have helped her, but he wouldn't have stopped her either. He's always wanted peace. And peace, to him, means keeping her calm. Keeping me quiet. But this isn't about peace anymore. It's about the truth. And whatever she's hiding, whatever she wrote that she thinks will ruin me, I know it's still coming. She said I'd find it when it's time. So I wait. I didn't sleep for 3 nights after I found the forged letter to Mira. I just sat up in the dark, rereading everything in the folders. The lies. The rewrites. My own life, twisted into something I didn't recognize. I kept asking myself the same question. Why? Why would someone go that far, over a letter? Over control? And then it hit me. This was never about the letter. It was never about me, not really. It was about power. She needed to be the voice in every room. She needed to be the narrator of everyone's story. But I made the mistake of writing my own. She had been rewriting mine ever since. And I had let her. For years. I let her take my space, my voice, my grief, because I was tired. Because I wanted to keep the peace. Because I thought I was protecting my daughter from drama. But silence didn't protect anyone. It just gave her more room to move. So, I made a choice. I printed every letter, every forged message, every email. I took photos of the clippings, the notes about my father, the file about Mira. I documented everything, backed it up twice, and put it on a flash drive. Then I sat down with my husband. And for the first time, I didn't ask him to believe me. I showed him. At first, he was quiet. Really quiet. Then he started shaking his head like he wanted to erase what he saw. When he got to the fake email to Mira, he looked up and said, "She wouldn't do this." I said nothing. Just handed him the next file. It was the school form with my forged signature. His hands trembled when he read it. She changed the school's records? I nodded. She was making me disappear, one form at a time. That night, he didn't sleep either. He tried talking to her the next morning. I wasn't there, but I heard the shouting. His voice cracked in a way I hadn't heard in years. She denied everything. Said I planted it. Said I was jealous. Said the stress made me paranoid. That's when I knew she'd never admit it. Not ever. She would burn every piece of evidence before she'd take responsibility. So I didn't wait for a confession. I made the truth louder than her lies. I sent copies of everything, the photos, the letters, the forgeries, to Mira, to the school, to my husband's brother, who always said I was too emotional, to every family member who ever took her side and told me to just be patient with her. I sent it without commentary. Just the files. Let the facts speak. And then I filed a police report about the school forgery, about the stolen documents, about the tampering. That's when things started to move fast. My email was served papers a week later. My husband's brother called, furious and in denial. But I told him. She wanted a legacy. Let her have it. But here's the part one haven't said. The part that's mine to own. I could have stopped her earlier. I could have said something the day she threw the letter away. I could have left.
Walked.
Refused to live in her house. But I didn't. I stayed. I tried to survive it quietly. That was my mistake. Thinking I had to swallow it to protect my family. I let her grow her power in my silence. I let my husband hide from the truth for years because I didn't want to be the one who caused the storm. But she was the storm. And the day she sat in court, silent and small, while the school read her fake forms out loud, that was the day I took the story back. My daughter doesn't sleepwalk anymore. I rewrote my father's letter one last time. Just for me. And I burned all the other versions. Because I don't need to remember how much she took from me. I need to remember what I finally gave back to myself. A voice. A truth. And a silence that I chose. She died 3 months later. Alone in a care home. Refusing to speak, even to my husband. The staff said she kept asking for mail. But no one wrote. The obituary was 2 lines. No funeral. No visitors. And in the end, I did write her a letter. But I never mailed it. I nailed it to the inside of the guest house wall, the one we used to sleep behind when we lived with her. The letter she destroyed was born again, and buried in the bones of the house she tried to control. It ends with, "The dead do matter. But so do the ones you tried to kill in spirit. And I'm still here."